Paula and Keith Newman joining me on the program now. Guys, kia ora, welcome to the show.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, Andrew.
It is so nice to be chatting with you, and can I say congratulations on this book, looking at the fruits of the Spirit in some very creative and compelling ways. Paula, why don't you start with you, because we asked the question, which came first, the words or the pictures? For you, working in the visual medium, what led you to, what drew you to paint a series of pictures on the fruits of the Spirit, Paula?
Well, I would have to say that I felt that the Lord asked me to do it. It was bordering on like a commission, really, I would say. Initially a bit reluctant because painting 9 images was going to be a lot of work. But, if God asks you to do something, in the end you have to go, okay,
yeah,
which I did. And it took quite a few years because things happen, life happens, and sometimes you have to get off it and then get back on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really as simple as that.
I mean,
and then images started coming, and some of these people are real people. Most of them are real people that I met.
Yeah.
So that made it even more powerful, even more potent.
There's certainly some powerful images indeed, and I love the idea of getting a commission from God. But to be fair, this is what you do. You are you're a painter. You've done portraits. You've done series. You've done some very prophetic images as well. But this particular series of trying to convey the ideas, the complexity behind the fruits of the Spirit, trying to capture all of that in one image, really, really powerful, and images that I've found myself sitting with for some time, quite contemplative in a way. And Keith, this is where you come in, I suppose. You're the wordsmith, you're the words guy, and hey, you're a writer. Your wife is a painter. You've both been gifted by God, but is this the first time you've done something collaborative together where you've combined your giftings, as it were?
Pretty much, and certainly in terms of a publication. And we've both got different ways of working. As a writer, I like to research. I love research. I love getting behind it. But sometimes simplicity works, and maybe being a poet helps there. But we had to really negotiate our way forward because painting's a very subjective thing too. You look at it and you will get something from those images that I might not get. Mm-hmm. And Paula will have something in mind that she's produced in the hope that it will elicit those sorts of images, that they will travel, but then trying to nail it down to words. Of course, I can be quite verbose, both in interviews and as I write, because I'm used to writing long form, and I want to understand everything. And of course, I over-researched.
Yeah.
And Paul will often say to me, when I'm about to go out and public speak about some of the other books, you've got this. You just relax and take it easy. You always over-research. But I think I'd rather over-research than under. But it was a process of whittling this down until we had the essence that could travel like the images did.
This is so wonderful. And hey, I was chatting off here and I says, you get a couple of creative people like you guys, you're going to have different opinions, different approaches. You work in different mediums. But hey, also as a married couple, you've got skin in the game on this one. You need to work together so that both of your voices are heard and represented, that the way in which you're representing what God is giving you in those different disciplines, that can be challenging at times, I imagine.
Yes, definitely challenging. I tend to cut it back. You don't need to, and that's hard for Keith because he sees that's part of his process. This is equally important to keep that in.
Yeah.
You need to let the images speak too. And I think that was the contrast or collaborative idea that we're not getting at each other, even though it would feel like that sometimes. But this is for the greater good. So that's, it's a miracle. This book is a miracle. Andrew.
That is so good, and I love the fact that actually this is is written and painted in cooperation with the Spirit of God. And the way in which people see the images and the way in which people take the words on board, again, this is the gift of translation, and everybody can respond to this in a different way. Keith, just wanting to jump into right at the beginning of the introduction, as you explain the concept behind this tale of two trees. So many voices and choices are competing for our attention in a world of information overload, where the line between good and bad and truth and lies is constantly being eroded, along with our sense of peace and place. Caught between surviving and thriving, so many of us are worn out and uncertain about how to navigate our own lives and relationships, let alone how to plan for an uncertain future. Maybe we're barking up the wrong tree. Very well said, and a great introduction. Unpack that a little bit more for us. When we're talking about these two trees, this is a story of two trees, literally and figuratively rooted into Scripture. What's behind the title, Keith? What are these trees you speak of?
I think these are the trees that we negotiate all the time. You go back to the garden of our beginnings and there were two trees. And I imagine that the Creator's intention was that we would really appreciate this tree of life and not really want too much more than that. But our curiosity too often tends to become a little bit selfish. But what about that one? But what about those fruit? But you've been told not to have that one. Well, I'm interested. Don't tell me what I can't have. And I think that's human nature. You know, the earthly Adam, if you like, always wants to know, like me. I find myself caught up the knowledge tree far too often and have to come down and go, I think I've worn myself out again. And I think the world that we're in today has a tendency to wear us out because we have so many options. And, you know, I think that Jesus is trying to remind us in as many ways as he can through the Scriptures that we were made for the tree of life.
Yeah.
And you go to the other end of the other bookend of the 66 books of the Bible, if you like, and there's those two trees again, but they're both trees of life on either side of the river or the water of life flowing from the throne of God, if you like, and there's new fruit every month. What the heck is that?
Yeah.
That's exciting. And the leaves are for the healing of the nations. What a wonderful mystery. So at the beginning we're caught, but we're conflicted between the two trees. We get kicked out of the garden. And how many lessons do we learn on the way through the book? But in the end, there's this hope.
Yeah, it is so delightful. And I love the metaphor of fruitfulness. I mean, it was back in the garden, we're called to be fruitful. But that idea of fruitfulness empowered by the Spirit of God, this is just such a wonderful picture conveyed in words and pictures, and yeah, so delightful. In terms of the design of the book, Paula, how did you anticipate people will engage with this material, both the words and the pictures? What did you have anything particular in mind of how people would connect with this material?
Yeah, I did, which is why they're fully, full page of that image and then the prose next to it. Simply because over the years I have discovered that very thing, that people will get different things out of it. So I wanted that image to do something, to speak to that person.
Yeah.
Having the prose was good too, because that just makes it all the richer. But having the image the powerful. Images are really powerful and they evoke all kinds of emotions. And I just think, for me as a Christian, his Spirit can be all over it.
Yeah.
And I've watched people cry. I've watched, just from it looking at an image. And so I sort of felt there wasn't a lot of books like that.
Mm-hmm.
And here was a chance for God to do something miraculous with Keith and I first. And then, send it out. Yeah.
One of the things I do love about this and these beautiful images in the book is it provokes questions. Because, I've read that passage in Galatians about the fruit of the Spirit, and honestly, the thing that comes to mind for me is perhaps those old cartoons from Sunday school where you've got a pear, and the pear's joy, and then the grapes are something else, and all those sorts of things. But the images from this book tell a very different story. It invites you in to okay, how does that look like for me? And you look at the images, the people in the images, very real people, and say, well, what's their life been like? What hopes and aspirations do they have? What's happening in their head? How can I connect with them in their longing for fruitfulness? It becomes so much more interpersonal in some ways in the way in which this is done.
Yes, that's right. And some of the people in these images I know and have met, and we're going through their own things, which made these images even more potent, because actually some of these are from people who really were going through tumultuous times. So every image, and every single image, the backgrounds are very tumultuous.
Yep.
Then, there's very little life there, or wild, crazy skies. And the fruit of the Spirit is within that tumultuous activity, because it's easy to feel peaceful when everything's nice. But when stuff goes down that you go, I really don't know what to do here, that's when the idea of finding joy or peace or self-control or any of those things almost seems like an anathema.
Yeah.
But that is where God really wants us to get a hold of those fruits, I feel.
Super good. And I love the way that it does bring that hope. Yes, life does have its challenges, life does have its chaos, but God spoke into that chaos, and by His Spirit we can have these fruits as well. Something else which I really got from the book is it's not a buffet. It's not a pick and mix, if you like. He's not saying, I'm just going to, this is my fruit over here. This is my fruit is patience or love or joy or whatever. But actually, it's a fruit salad. All of the fruits of the Spirit are for us to enjoy. Yes, but sometimes and in different seasons of life, we need perhaps one more than the other, but we need to embrace all of this to have the fulfilled life, that life of abundance that was promised, right?
Great.
Yeah, I think that these are elements of a mature spiritual life, and the reality is that we can't do it on our own, and that's why they're the fruits of the Spirit, capital S. This is where we need to invite God's Holy Spirit into the picture and say, God, I really want to have kindness, but I'm not feeling very kind, or I really need long suffering or patience, but I'm getting so impatient and frustrated right now in myself. I don't think I'm going to get there. Yeah. I need that extra input of the Holy Spirit, which is given to us as the teacher, the comforter, the alongside who's with us through this journey. And I think that's, you've got the story which you can dip into and you can read with some biblical references. You've got the image to meditate on. Then you've got a section on each of the fruits that allows you to dive in a little bit deeper and do a Bible study if you want to, so you can come back to it. But there's also a meditation that just allows you to just stop for a while, look at the imagery, find that place of peace, pray a prayer. So it could be for a group consideration as well as personal growth.
Yeah. And hey, as we say, all of the fruits are important, but there are sometimes in some seasons where one particular image or one particular fruit of the Spirit will be important to us. Paula, I imagine it's impossible for me to say, what's your favorite painting? It's like trying to pick your favorite child in that regard. But hey, we don't have time to go through all 9. So one each. Paula, we'll start with you. What particular one stands out for you, both in terms of the way in which was depicted in painting, but also as a spiritual fruit for you?
I would have to say patience. It is not my strong suit, which is slightly ironic because these paintings take a great deal of patience to produce.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a come on, let's go. I'm a bit like that. So, and that can go against me. Woo, yeah. And that can go against me sometimes. It's like just stop.
Yeah.
And various things in my life where I thought, come on, by now, surely. But no. So that is one of my aspirations, and closely linked to that, of course, is peace.
Yeah.
Because the more patience you have, the more peace you have. And like you said, it is a fruit salad. They kind of all dovetail. But for me, that is one of my flaws.
Well, I think it is remarkable, and hey, be careful when you ask God for patience, because He's not going to give you patience. He's going to give you circumstances to be patient in, and loving the image that goes with this one. And could you just? I was going to try and describe it, but hey, you're here, Paula. Describe this particular image. What's happening in this scene?
So he is in a very barren land. There's very little greenery. I think there is just a little, in the little corner there is one little plant that's growing.
Yep.
He's got a bowl of seeds. He's been sowing for a while. He's getting a bit discouraged, but he's looking over and finally seeing a little shoot. Oh, it's finally happening after all this time. Look how much I've been sowing, and I still have a bowl of seeds I haven't sown yet. So it's like a hopeful painting. He's looking over and saying, "Oh my goodness."
I was going to say there's a lot of hope in this, and the idea of sowing seeds into the soil, and trusting and knowing that his patience will be rewarded. It is that unseen harvest in this image, which is so powerful, and actually the subject matter, the person who is that you've painted in this particular scene, one of your neighbours, I understand.
He was. This was when I lived in Taranaki many years ago. I was after somebody that could be any race.
Mm-hmm.
So Mark had the most lovely heart. He didn't, I used to think, do you ever look in the mirror? I mean, anything his looks weren't important to him at all.
Yeah.
He was being adopted. He didn't know his heritage, but his whole heart was he wanted to be the best dad that he could be.
Wow.
And I used to sometimes in the backyard with this kid, really engaging and spending time. That was his heart.
Yeah.
And I thought, that is why you are going to be my...
and the spirit of patience there, hey, not just with growing seeds in the garden, but also patience sometimes with our own family, with our own children, of saying, well, you know what, I'm doing the best that I can as a parent, but Lord, I'm trusting you for the outcome here. I know that will connect with a lot of people. Keith, wanting to bring you in and your choice. Now, as it turns out, same subject in the painting, but which one of the fruits of the Spirit have you chosen, Keith?
Well, self-control's always my go-to. I have to come back to it and to say, how am I managing my mind? Because the mind is a crazy place. There's stuff happens in there that you wouldn't imagine, or maybe you would imagine it. And that's the place of imagination.
Yep.
And I think that's the heartland of creativity, is what starts in the mind will end up coming out in one way or another, either in words or actions or the way we are. And there's times in my life when it can get out of control. You can react beyond your ability to be able to deal with it. Sometimes we don't know what's in us until we're tested. And sometimes, I think I'm a reasonably peaceful person, but not so long ago, there was an incident that happened. Paula calls me the cycle track police along here because I'll be going, hey, get off the cycle track. It's only for people walking. You'll hit somebody. And occasionally you get a look and you think, well, I better back off here. And there was one young guy on his trail bike one day, and we go for a walk. We were holding hands. We were ambling along, old people holding hands.
Yeah.
And I'm daydreaming. I'm off in this different space, and there's this guy across the way, and he's waving at us. He's got a bunny hat on, and I wave back, and I thought, that's nice. And then the next minute, he's going along the cycle track on the bike, and I'm not happy about that. And I just sort of said, I can't reach him. He's gone past.
Yeah.
And then I'm daydreaming, and he comes up behind us on his bike and gave me such a shock. I let go of Paula's hand. I jumped back. I yelled at him,
Yeah.
and he'd gone. And then he came back again, and I waved him down. And I said, "You shouldn't be on the cycle track. You'll hit somebody.
Yeah.
Look, you've hurt my wife. She's fallen on the ground, and she's hurt." And I didn't. My emotions were crazy.
Mm.
And he said, "Well, where am I supposed to go?" I said, "Not on the cycle track. You're not supposed to be on the cycle track." "Well, I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't hurt anybody." And he said, "Not my fault." And I just got angry, and I pushed his bike over.
Wow.
And there was a
Oh,
whole situation occurred there where I thought, gee, I kind of lost it.
Mm.
And a name I shouldn't have. And then his parents came and saw us the next day, and we were talking to them, and I thought, that they understood. I thought this was a peaceful outcome. I thought, and while I was talking to them, a dove landed on my head.
Oh, my goodness.
What the heck is that on my head? And there was a dove there, and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, oh, God, you're going to work this out peacefully. This is going to bring peace. But it didn't. It turned to chaos. I was the one who got accused of being the aggressor in the situation. Goodness. I had to stop, and I had to go, God, what was that about? And he said, that was for you. That was for you to maintain your peace. Doesn't matter what the outcome is. And the next day, a dove came and landed on my head again. I'm going, what is this? This is some kind of tohu. But it's really just it's a sense to me to manage your mind, to hold your peace. Not everything is as it seems, and it'll work out in the end.
Wow.
But, it just made me realize, like James says sometimes, that you have to manage your mind. And a double-minded person, if you're not in control of your own thinking, then you can get yourself into trouble.
You can a little bit. And hey, being the wordsmith of the two, sometimes our words, hey, I know this myself. I can use words to dig holes for myself, actually. But hey, a wonderful story, well told. Now, in terms of the imagery that goes with this, talk to us about what's happening in this picture.
Well, I've had to think about this because it's not an easy one. But the more I thought about it, I thought this guy in the picture with his dreadlocks is standing there looking uncertain. He's on a path.
Yep. He's
got a glass in his hand, and I'm not sure whether it's half full of water or vodka or whatever. But I think he's kind of struggling. He's stuck. He's not sure where to go. But if you look at the distance, you see a lush tree sitting there. And I'm thinking, is that the tree of life, or is that the tree of knowledge of good and evil? He's kind of caught. I think it's the tree of life, and I think he needs to just carry on walking toward the tree of life. But it's a fairly barren landscape, and I think he's in a place of indecision. And I think that's quite a powerful place to be when you come to consider the fruit of the Spirit, because there's always the sense of God calling, come and put your roots down into the river of life, get refreshed, because I've got something more for you.
And hey, it's such a shame that we don't have time to go through all of the images. Guys, this is a powerful book, and I know that it will be used by God. Between Two Trees, Seeds of Promise in print and prose. Now, this is a project that has taken some time, very much a labor of love. But if people wanted to get a hold of a copy of this book, what's the easiest way of doing this? And Paula, you suggested maybe home group or something, maybe a good way of working through the fruits of the Spirit. But how do people connect? How do they get hold of copies of the book?
The best way would be to email me, which is paula@paulanovak.com, and that's Novak. So PA Paula@paulanovak.com. That's the best way.
Well, guys, thank you so much. This is such a delightful book, and already God has shown me so much through reading it and through contemplating the images. Thanks for the ministry that you have. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.